Well, a very big shout out to all of our Southbank subscribers and followers. Now, you'll know that when it comes to cryptocurrencies, we have been very much ahead of the curve. We've been talking about this subject for years, and it made me laugh, actually, when I first joined Southbank. The Financial Times and others, isn't it typical that Farage gets in with people who talk about valueless cryptocurrencies? Well, we've had some fun with that, and we've recommended to everybody that these should be a part of your portfolio, volatile though they are. Well, one man who's been on this mission for a lot longer than me, in fact, to be honest, a lot longer than almost anybody, is, of course, our own in-house expert, Sam Volkering. Sam, you and I have not sat down and discussed crypto for quite a long time. It's been, in terms of price action and in terms of the legitimacy of one or two of the market participants, it's not been all plain sailing, has it?
No, it hasn't been, and it never is with crypto. It, like you appropriately said, it is volatile when we're looking at it priced in pounds or dollars or whatever currency you may use. So it's been a roller coaster ride. But I do recall the first time you and I sat down to talk about this, Nigel, and the price had just broken through $10,000, and people were astonished that this thing could be worth that. And 2 weeks ago, I think it was now, Bitcoin broke through $73,000. So it's not gone straight up, but it's certainly headed that way over the last 4 years, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Volatile, wild ride, but now, as you say, the price pretty much up there at all-time highs. The other thing, Sam, that I don't think people, particularly in the UK, really understand is the whole point of crypto is not just about a punt. It isn't just about backing a horse in the Grand National to see whether the value goes up or down. It's about usage. And I don't think people understand in Miami and elsewhere just how many things, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., can now be useful.
You're absolutely right. And there's a lot of people that only see Bitcoin as a store of value. And we've seen over time that has proven to be true. But you can still use it. You can take a portion of your Bitcoin and you can buy stuff. A lot of people talk about, a cup of coffee, and you can do that. And we've said this before. You can't take your gold bar down to a Starbucks and chip off a corner and say, there you go, there's my high-priced latte. But you can do that with a whole bunch of different payment rails that are connected to crypto, like Bitcoin and like Ethereum as well. And it's that utility of it, as well as the fact that it's a store of gold, that people kind of struggle a little bit with. So it's really important that people understand that it serves many purposes, and it can be one thing and it can be something else. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And we're seeing loads more merchants and retailers, and even, I'm seeing more and more people listing homes for sale priced in Bitcoin now than we have ever before. So absolutely, it is a useful store of value, funnily enough.
Yeah, look, if you live in Miami, you can buy everything from a coffee to a Ferrari to a house, as you say, now in Bitcoin. A point I don't think the European time zone yet fully appreciates. The other point, Sam, that I find quite interesting is that, again, since you and I last sat down and went through this, I, of course, went through my little debanking crisis. The fact that because I don't fully support net zero policy or the diversity and inclusion agenda, I was to be closed out by Coutts and refused by 10 other high street banks. There is also a feeling, isn't there, with that and with the ever-present threat, as cash usage is reduced. Just last week, we saw Barclays and NatWest both place a £20,000 a year maximum on cash you can deposit, which, think about a small business, a market trader, is quite worrying. But the idea that you can be debanked, the idea that with increased regulation, the banks can control how you spend your money, or whether you even have access to your money, again, there's quite a feeling here, isn't there, amongst the whole crypto community, that this is a form of individual sovereignty.
You hit the nail on the head with those last two words, individual sovereignty. That has always been one of the core principles of why Bitcoin even exists, is that it doesn't rely on these third parties, these so-called trusted third parties like banks. And you experienced it yourself in the most unthinkable way, really, where they shut you out. And I mean, last time we were on camera talking was before that happened. And we were talking about, I remember we were talking about central bank digital currencies and the idea that the banks can have that much control over your wealth. And then, unfortunately for you, it was proven. And you're not the only case out there, as you're well aware, and what you've been covering in relation to this, that this has happened to. Nobody, when you have your Bitcoin in your own self-sovereign wallet that you control, no one can shut you out. The bank cannot say you can't use your Bitcoin, you can't move your Bitcoin around.
Yeah.
That freedom, that ability to control your own wealth has never been more important than it is today. And like you say, unfortunately, you had to go through that process, but that's the direction, and it's only getting worse. We see it more and more with caps on where you can spend. You can go into a bank, and there was an example in Australia recently where someone went into the bank to ask for some cash, and the bank said, "We don't have any." It's like, well, where you think you've got safe savings, they're not as safe as I think people think necessarily.
No, I think this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. Now, one of the problems, Sam, always with any form of crypto was the idea of, where is the legitimate place that I can invest? I might not be the most tech-savvy person in the world. I might be very nervous about having my own wallet. Lots of examples of people losing their passwords and not being able to access their Bitcoin. But of course, the American official exchanges have changed all of that over the course of the last few months.
Yeah, and look, what we're finding is that there's a legitimacy now coming into this space, weirdly from Wall Street, that are vindicating what this has been about all along. And they've kind of woken up to this idea that actually maybe all these people have been onto something for the last decade. And we've really seen that ratchet up a notch with the launch of the ETFs, the Bitcoin, physically backed Bitcoin ETFs in the US. So BlackRock, biggest fund managers in the world, BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK Invest, Van Eck, they're all going and launching these ETFs. We've just seen approval in Hong Kong for the same physically backed Bitcoin ETFs. They're launching imminently. So we're going to see that open up even more. Even here in the UK and in London, the London Stock Exchange has now approved the application for people to launch Bitcoin and Ethereum ETNs on the London Stock Exchange. So that's slowly opening up again. And it's this, I guess it's traditional finance saying, actually, maybe there is something here. Yeah. And there's good and bad about that, but it means that for people that, like you say, are terrified of wallets or passwords or losing, the idea of holding all this value in a tiny little, I think they have one here somewhere, holding all of your value basically in something like that terrifies people. You can do it through other means now. It's not necessarily. Sorry, go ahead.
And these are regulated exchanges, and that's a very important point to get across to people. And actually, Sam, even the biggest crypto skeptic of them all, a friend of mine from Florida called Donald Trump, even he has said in the last few months, you know what? I can live with cryptocurrency. So I've noticed that the FT aren't slagging us off anymore.
Wow. Yeah. Let's hope they haven't. They had some choice words the last time we were on camera talking about this. But you're right. It's traditional finance. It's Wall Street saying, well, maybe we should be living with this. Taking it on board. There's clearly demand from their customers for it. So there's that pull factor that we are seeing continuously from people all over the world saying to these big fund managers, I want access. I still trust you, and I understand that, but they still want access to this effectively what is a new asset class. And that's what's exciting for people as well, is that while it might not be the core principles of what Bitcoin is and why it exists, there are more understood ways of getting into it and investing in it through things like your broker, there are a whole range of different stocks that are available now that are directly tied to what Bitcoin does and how it works. And these are ways that people can still gain exposure to this asset class without necessarily having to take on board all the things that come with direct Bitcoin ownership. And that's ultimately a good thing, I think.
Yeah, no, well, I think it popularizes it. I think it makes it more legitimate. I think it helps enormously. Now, audience, so far, so good. I know you're still with us. We're about to go technical. Don't go away, because this is quite fundamental. We're on the verge of something that's about to happen that's called a halving. Sam is going, in simple English, or I'll kick him, to explain to you what is about to happen technically to Bitcoin and why it matters.
So when we spoke the first time about 4 years ago, it was just after the last halving. And another one is taking place in a couple of days, actually. What it does is it cuts in half the supply of new Bitcoin into the market. So what happens is, in order to secure Bitcoin's network and keep it functioning, you have miners on the network. And what they do is they mine the blocks in Bitcoin's blockchain. As a reward for doing that, they are allocated a certain number of Bitcoin. Now, all the way when it first started, they got 50 Bitcoin for every block they mined on Bitcoin's blockchain. Every 210,000 blocks, which works out at about every 4 years, that reward is cut in half. So it happened once, and the reward was cut to 25. Then it happened again when it was cut to 12.5. Then it happened again, which was when we spoke in 2020, and the reward was cut to 6.25, and it's about to happen again, and it's going to be cut to 3.125. Now, why that's important is because that slashes the supply in half. And this comes at a time when we are seeing monumental increases in demand from ETFs, from Wall Street, traditional finance, from all these wealth managers around the world. They're saying, we want to get this in our clients' hands. So you got skyrocketing demand, a slash in supply. And historically, these have been catalyst events for a Bitcoin and crypto bull market. That's why.
To some extent, Sam, that must be in the price to a degree.
I don't think it is, to be honest with you. And what we see is every single time in previous cycles, when we come up to the halving, there is an element of fear that this cut in supply will actually be a bad thing for the market. But we've seen time and time again, and by no means is it going to play out exactly the same as we've seen 3 times now, but it may do, is that it's actually that catalyst for the price to start to ratchet up and investors to really start to sort of get a little bit crazy about things. And it doesn't necessarily happen the flick of a switch, but progressively over the next 12 to 18 months, I think it's going to be the catalyst for another cycle that we've seen time and time before.
Interesting. So, Sam, you remain unrepentantly bullish from the sounds of it.
It's been 14 years now, Nigel, where I've had people, and I've literally got the comments from the last time we spoke of people that saw the video, and the 99% of anything online to do with cryptocurrency is a scam. You're snake oil salesman. This is a pyramid scheme pushing digital currency. Are you a Chinese agent? This is the sort of thing that people have been throwing at us for the last 14 years. Yeah. And I have never changed my view that long-term, I think Bitcoin is an absolute game changer. And that if people are not understanding what's happening or how it works or have some exposure to it, they're really doing themselves a disservice.
Sam, thank you ever so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Bolkering, again, we've been having this conversation now on and off for 4 years. So far, folks, you know what? We've been 100% right.